witches.
Hi, hello. Welcome back to the Night Without Whispers, or Odrin story from The Night and Its Moon.
Yeah, we're finishing up that universe. Well, maybe I don't know if we'll get the next books as they come out or not. But for now, we're finishing up this universe. We didn't realize this story existed after we read The Night and Its Moon, so we had to kind of go back to it. And I'm glad we did, but also like sad.
I was going to say, I don't know how I would appreciate the story if we read it after the first book.
Yeah.
I think I appreciated the story more.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
After everything.
I would agree with that. So, all of the part names in this one have to do with deer. um, so part 1 is called Fawn, which is like the beginning of their love story. So we learn about teenage Odrin and his like friendship, I guess, more so. It's not even a love story yet, really.
Yeah, so it's his. Okay, so he grew up in a small town pretty much near Farley. Probably like a day and a half, or like a half day ride from Farley, I would assume.
Yeah.
But he grew up there. He was a leather worker's son, and his best friend was the son of a butcher. Well, his best friend also had a little sister, and she was around 2.
And then the
But
brother. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the brother died.
Yeah. But they kept up their friendship.
Yeah, he didn't want her to be alone, because her brother died of like sickness.
Yep.
So that's kind of the opening part of it all, like just us learning a little bit about that story, kind of what happened. But he
Yeah.
he found a bone. Oh no, he carved. I was like, he found a bone,
Yes.
but
It's antlers.
yeah, uh, um, some type of buck had shed its antlers, and he found it in the forest, and he gave it to her.
Yeah.
As a
And
token of
then
their friendship.
she turned it into, or had it turned into, necklaces.
Not until part 2, 3, 4. I don't remember, but
Oh, I wrote that in part 1.
oh, maybe
I don't know.
it was like a few years. The timing of all of this was really, really
Yeah.
off. I had to go back a couple of times and be like, okay, so he's aged what now? He's
I
aged what?
literally write that at one point. Because at this point, they're young. They're like 13, I think, when they
Yeah.
find the antlers.
Yeah, because it's like a few years later, he's like 16.
Yeah.
And then it's 10 years later, and he's 26. And then X amount of years later, yeah. Um,
Yes.
at this point, when I was reading this, I was like, yep, okay, she's gonna die. Cool.
Yeah, that's what I said too. The whole time, every part, I'm like, is this what happens? This is what's gonna happen. This is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, like I think I just kind of reverted back into like the world
Yes.
of uh Fairhold, and I was just like, okay, he's gonna die here. Or not he, she's gonna die here. Okay, she's definitely gonna die here.
Yeah.
Oh, this is it right here.
Yep. I did the same thing. But nobody dies in part 1. Well, other than the brother. But
He was
we don't.
dead by the time we
Yeah, he
started.
was dead before we even started reading.
Yeah.
And then part 2 is called Yearling. And this is so innocent. Like, they're going to this like abandoned orchard to collect apples. And
It's
this
like
is
so
where,
secretive but
yeah,
innocent, and it's so cute.
And this is when I was like, okay, and also how old are they here to just be like wandering off on their own? And this is where we find out that he is 16.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny too because his mom is like freaking out. She's like, it's like
The
it's so funny.
typical mom thing.
Yeah, it's the typical mom thing. Like the more you hang out with her, the more pregnant she's gonna get. Like
Yeah, like
it's just I'm sitting here like I feel like you want to get pregnant at like the age of 16 and this time, but
right.
I'm also kind of thinking about uh if it was like the 1600s for us,
Yeah.
they'd want to have kids and they'd want to have as many as
Right,
possible.
because
And then
their life
she's,
expectancy is not much longer.
yeah, and she's over here like, that's just another mouth to feed. I don't want that. I don't want that. Like,
Which makes
not,
sense too.
yeah. But it's just like, damn.
Yeah.
But it's just innocent fun.
It really is. Except he does like try to confess his love to her. And it's very 16-year-old boy confession of love. He's like fumbling his words and
He's nervous.
yeah, and he
He's
thinks
like,
that she is like telling him to get lost because she's like, "Give me your necklace." You're like her his antler necklace, and he's like, "No." She's like, "Give me your necklace."
My necklace.
And he's thinking that she's gonna like take it and not break
And then
up with him because they're not together. But instead,
she ends up carving their initials
yeah,
into the little antler pieces. It's kind of like a shark tooth, like when you get a necklace of a
yeah,
shark tooth. It's kind of like that. She ends up carving her name because her name's Effie. So she carves an E and an O into the little tiny tooth things. And she gets frustrated. She goes, "Why did your name have to start with an O? Why couldn't it be something easy?" And he's like confused. He's like, "What are you doing?"
yeah.
Like thinking she's going to leave and flee and never want to talk to him again. But then she just hands back the necklace and goes, "Here you go. Now we'll be together forever." And like he got the E necklace and she got the O necklace, and
it's all cutesy.
I know, I was like, it's like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, and because of that, and because I feel like we've learned Piper CJ, I was like, okay,
Where's
something
the trauma?
tragic is about to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's the trauma at? Like, what's happening?
And so they hear something, like, because they're not starting to walk back yet. They're just still at the orchard. And they hear something and they're like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, give me your knife because Effie has a knife because why doesn't she? And she said, get your own knife. And I was like, I like her. And then
my knife.
it's a Vegas.
Yeah, because there's something half wolf, half man like that goes by, and then somebody on a horse comes by, and that's a reaver. We find out later it's a reaver, but then they're just kind of sitting there, and then that's when they see the Vegas, whatever, the thing, and he's terrified.
Yep.
Like not the Odrin we know from the like in the future. He is absolutely beyond scared, like jelly legs, can't move, can't do anything. And Odrin is essentially going to do like a standoff with the Vegas, and and he's like screaming at Effie to go back to where they were, and instead of doing that, the man comes out of nowhere and like kills it essentially.
Yeah.
And then that's when he was like, "Who are you? What are you?" And they were like, "It's like this dark assassin." And Odrin, I would assume, would be a little jealousy because at the end, not the end, but before we read the letter to Effie, it says Odrin looked between them, eyeing the way her gaze was a mixture of shock, gratitude, and admiration while she stared at the assassin. The man sighed, finishing up his shallow grave. He looked at her from where he knelt on the ground, tar covering his hands and knees, fresh earth pressed before him because he killed a demon. So, like, he's covered in black tar. He goes, I'm a reaver. And then it's kind of like he's not jealous. I don't know, like maybe worried that that's the kind of man that she wants. And
he's feeling inadequate. Like,
yeah. And so he writes her a letter, and it's so fucking sad.
As Effie, I'm pissed.
Yeah, I'd be like, what the fuck, bro? Like, I wanted you just fine. Here we are.
Right. So mad. So pissed off at this, but whatever.
It is kind of like he wrote her a letter and just left in the middle of the night.
Yeah, he doesn't give her an option, doesn't...
Yeah, like, anyone could have possibly talked to him and, like, made it known, like, yes, this would be great, please come back. Like, you know, there could have been ways around this, because, like, his dad is not doing well. His dad is ill. His mom is trying to you know, keep the business of leatherwork going. That's why she's so worried about Odrin getting Effie pregnant, even though, like, none of that has ever fucking happened. Because she's trying to feed 3 mouths. And this is what he says. He says, Effie, I'm a coward, and I always have been. I was too afraid to tell you that you were the kindest, bravest, most wonderful person in the world. Too afraid to tell you that I didn't want other friends, anyone else to catch frogs with, or climb the hill behind the village, or play knights and swords with. Too afraid to tell you that I wanted you to run away with me. Too afraid to kiss you in the orchard. Too afraid to save you when you needed me. I don't want to be a coward anymore. My parents don't need the extra mouth to feed, and you don't need a man who can't protect you. Who can't speak his mind, who can't live in truth. I've left for the mountains. I don't know much of reevers, but I know that even if I arrive a coward, I'll become short someone worthy, or I'll die trying. Marry, see the world, be happy, live a life, full, wonderful life. My happiness will be in seeing your happiness. Someday I'll be able to protect you, your guardian angel, a man who might have been worthy of you. My heart will belong to no one else, Odrin. And it's like,
what an idiot.
Listen here, you fucker.
Yes.
You are a great person, regardless of what's going on. Talk to
that
Effie.
was a wild situation. I would be so fucking pissed. Well,
here's the thing. He's 16 at the time. And he's basically only been in this village. Never once has any of them talked about seeing a demon like this. And it's like,
no.
And it really made no sense to me, because I was like, what happened to her that made him be all, I want to protect you, I can't be the man? Like, did like she say something? Was it just that look? Like, to be honest, I'd probably be looking the same way at the person who saved my fucking life after whatever the hell just happened. Like,
right. No, I think that was it. I think his ego couldn't take that someone else had to save their lives and that he couldn't do it. So here we are.
As a 16-year-old child, I would not expect you.
Yeah, but you know, men and their egos.
Men. Will had the man flu today.
Oh God. Squilliam.
And I was like, oh, men. Anyways, so yes, that was his last letter to her before he left.
And then part 3.
I like the name of Hyde, or like the name of this. It's perfect for what he's essentially hiding from, like, reality.
Yeah, and it has like a twofold meaning, because like hide, like the hide of
a deer,
the animal, but then also hide, like he is hiding in the mountains of Umriv.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because it's like hide is thick.
Yeah,
it's supposed to protect you from weather. Like, they skinned
kind of like
animals.
Odrin's brain.
Yeah, like, and so it's funny because he's saying hide, as in like he's hiding away, but he's also getting stronger.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird double meaning. Like, yeah, he ran away from everything, but he did become a protector. He did gain all of that. But yeah, he finally makes it to Umriv, and that's the end of part 3.
Yep. Um
Part Part 4 is when it starts getting sad and when I stopped writing anything down because I just kept reading.
Yeah, so part 4 is called Running, that's like when they like hit each other with their antlers, right? And they're like
I don't know.
fighting over the
I
I don't know.
think.
Anyway,
I'll look it up.
he is on his way back to his village because he now feels worthy, and he is going to start. He's on a dispatch from the reevers, but he's also going to start. Hopefully, he wants to stay in his village and just go back to Umriv like once a year or something. And he's really
Running refers to mating season.
Oh,
But
so
yes,
yeah, I mean that is when they do their antler thing.
It's when they fight because it's mating season. Yes.
Yeah.
It typically is when like.
Well, that makes sense for this part of the story too. Anyway, then.
Yeah. It's when they rub their antlers on trees, shrubs, or whatever, or fight each other.
Okay. So I wasn't wrong.
No, you're right.
Yay me. but yeah, he's very anxious. And he's nervous about seeing Effie and seeing her new family. Because again, in his head, he's like, I told her to marry and be happy. Because he's an idiot.
And it's been 10 years, so.
Yeah.
He's
and for
26.
all he knows, she could be dead. Like,
yeah.
For all he knows, how does he know? He doesn't know. So he finally goes into the town and goes to his parents' house first. And when he knocks on the door, a woman opens it, but it's not his mother like he expects.
Bum bum bum. Effie lives there.
Yeah, she's living there, and I was like, "What the fuck? Why is Effie at his parents' house?" But that's because his mom is not doing so hot.
His mom's having like real bad. We don't really even know what, but like real bad episodes. Like when he visits her, he didn't like she barely even recognized that he was there.
Yeah.
So probably some sort of dementia, Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and his father has passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
But also Effie moved in there and has been taking care of his mom, and no one.
And not married.
Yeah, she's not married, doesn't have a family. Sorry, a dog just ran past my window, and I don't see a human.
Uh-oh. I think this is the part that's like really the most sad because like he returns and he's trying to make his family proud. And then all of a sudden his long lost love has been there the whole time. His father is gone and his mother is on her way out.
He just went into the neighbor's garage, so hopefully it lives there. I don't know.
If not, it's protected.
It's out of the street anyway.
But he
yeah, his dad is gone. His mom's not doing great.
So he returns a hero, quote unquote. But he's not in a good place.
It's back.
Girl.
Listen, I'm an animal lover. Just riff for a minute.
I got you. I'll just keep going. Don't worry. I got you. So basically, she's still wearing his necklace. He's still wearing hers. So they're both like, oh, I love you. Kind of stuff. They don't necessarily say I love you right then and there, but she finds out that he is a reaver, that he essentially was successful. He took his oath. And she essentially kind of nurses him back to health because he has a really deep cut. So he is he's just kind of like getting, kind of settled in with his mom and Effie at this point. And then they essentially find out that he is on he's on dispatch. He is supposed to be someplace, and she goes, well, when you finish your dispatch, you'll return to the Reeve. And he says to her, I'll be a Reaver no matter where I live. Effie, if you'll have me, I'd like it to be here. And that's when they start making out. And it's kind of refreshing to not read a sex scene, mainly because I think I just felt like that's all I've been reading recently. But it was a gentle, tender kiss, smooch, cuddle session kind of a thing. It was relief, it was need, it was gratitude and longing and remorse for the years they had lost. It was more beautiful than poetry or flowers or songs or jewels or sunsets or the first thunderstorm in the spring. And after everything was said and done, she like quietly laid there with him and cried. Until like the early morning sun, and he kissed the top of her head, pulling her against his chest. Don't cry up, don't cry. All I wanted was for you to be happy. And she finally tells him, you are my happiness. And so, love, there you go. And he was there for 3 days. He was actually not supposed to be there that long, but he overstayed his length of time that he was actually supposed to be out on dispatch. And he was essentially a leech. He never was without her. He was constantly near her. He was nuzzling her neck. He was wrapped around her even when she was trying to cook. And so he's like, I will be back this time, I promise, like without leaving. And you could tell Effie's like a little apprehensive, like, you just left last time. Are you gonna be back this time? So that's what happened. She's like worried. But he has a job to do. He's a reaver. He has to go. So he goes on his dispatch, which is actually to a city, which is about 4 days' ride from where he currently was in his town of Blackwell or Blackwall. When he reached this city, apparently there is a merchant who had been suspected of keeping a sistren to swindle others and amass his wealth. Apparently, Sistron's blood could be used to conceal and camouflage, meaning that if the rumors were true, it was quite likely that the merchant had not earned a penny of his money honestly. They were also a twofold threat, both for their bloodthirst and for the unfair advantage they offered their keeper. So, if he had been operating as the city's phantom, then this creature, and if this creature got loose, then he would be essentially that creature would be responsible for piles of corpses from the first bloodsucker that the city has seen in a century. So he obviously has to keep it quiet and do it under lock and key. So once he gets there, he finally figures out where he's supposed to go. He finds out where the merchant is. And he finds out that this merchant is not well liked. Is actually quite the opposite of well liked. So and vendors along the way were eager to watch this unfold. We're eager to see the downfall of this merchant, and we're begging to go watch. And he was like, no, I'm doing this alone. So he goes to this ugly ass house. Apparently it's like an estate. Did you take the oh no, they're outside. And Odrin back. Odin is like freaking out. That's what I'm hearing. So even from the outside, the estate looked like a gaudy, wasteful, and a monument to overcompensation. And instead of going to the front door to speak his mind about everything, he was going to sneak around the back. So once he reached around back, he actually found a servant. And the servant about screamed, let loose of everyone knowing that he was there. He finally quiets her and basically says that he's here for her master or whatever. And he said, I'm not here to hurt any person. And she goes, you're here to kill the demon. And he like perks up and he goes, what do you know of it? Where does he keep it? Where, like, what's going on? So we find out that he is actually hidden in a root cellar. He is hidden in a root cellar, basically deep within the kitchen. And that's where it sleeps and stays for its wonderful job of obtaining money for his master. So he was like, oh, this might not be so hard after all. I can go down there, I can kill it, and I can leave before I can even waste a single breath. And so he's devising a plan with this maid, and he finds out that the creature will scream and that he has to be quick about it. So he essentially decides with this maid that he will cut the head off and he is going to take the head with, and the servants will need to take the body and bury it as quick as possible, and they will stage it as if the creature escaped. And that way he's protected, the maids and everybody are protected, and the master of the house loses all his wealth and loses everything. So that's the going plan at this point. So he later finds out when he's getting ready to go down into this thing that the cistern has a very, very thick collar of metal around its neck. And that kind of sucks for Odrin because he's supposed to be cutting the head off and he can't do that. So that, I mean, what are you going to do? And then so he's like, okay, well, this is going to kind of suck. He'll have to hack through the skull. He'll have to do this. And then he'll have to do all of these other things. And it's going to be a little bit more work to leave unscathed. But he's still going to try it. He's got a job to do. He's a reaver. And as soon as he enters the house, he starts smelling this disgusting cologne of musk, sandalwood, all of this. And it is terrible. Mainly because you got to hide the stench of... Is that Brittany? I think that's Brittany. But what is it? Oh, because he's got to hide the smell of decaying bodies that this cistern is, surviving off of. So they go to where? So they went into the kitchen, she pulled back a rug, and just as she said, there was a hatch to a root cellar. And she lifted up the covering and it allowed a ladder to unfold down into the pit of darkness, which is where the cistern is being held. And then he goes down there to prepare himself for the next steps of what he's got to do. The fuck is happening? And Odrin's like, all right, let's get this over with. I'm done. I'm over it. What the hell were you thinking? Hey! So cool. She definitely did say that.
My bad. I whistled. I whistled for the other dog. Forgetting that Odin.
Oh my god, Odin was in there, and I was like, "What the fuck is that? Like clicking noise?" And it was just Odin up against the wall.
Yeah, it's oh no, he's on top of the sewing machine. That dog does not want to be rescued. So I'm back. I don't know where you're at or if you're done or what's happening, but
Oh, you didn't hear anything I was saying?
no, it disconnected once I got far enough away.
Oh. I just kind of did like a play-by-play up until he's downstairs staring at the sustron is where I'm at. The
Okay.
sustron.
Okay.
Did you in your page of notes have anything to say till then?
I just said, does he feel like a dick yet?
Oh, for leaving? Yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
probably does. Especially after he heard that his father passed, he's probably like, damn. I
And
should
then
not have left.
with the with the Sestron, I'm like, is he being too trusting to these servants? Like, or am I just too paranoid?
Honestly, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I didn't think this was actually going to like pan out as easily as it did.
Yeah,
I
because I
thought
thought that this was going to be one of the like
I thought
moments.
that like and I knew from like reading it that if the sustron got out, it would be a bloodsucker let out on the loose. But for some reason, I guess I wasn't clicking that the blood can camouflage people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was under the impression that it could camouflage itself, and I thought that servant was a sustron.
Okay, I thought that for a minute there too, and then I was like, no, but what if that servant is like really
In on
actually
it.
likes her master or whatever and like
Like
shuts him in there, or what if it's not on a chain? Like what? I had all kinds of thoughts.
like
Um,
plays an actress like Knox did quite a few times.
this dog is just playing in the street in front of my house and it's stressing me out. Um, anyway,
Call it animal control.
he I'm gonna go back out there when we're done. See if I can get it. But he decides after killing this thing that he has to let the guy see his face. The like whatever, I forget what his
The
title is.
merchant.
The merchant, yeah, see his face because he doesn't want him to think that the servants let it go or that the servants killed it or what happened. He doesn't want the servants to take the fall.
Honestly,
But
with the
that's a
amount
terrible idea.
right, and honestly with the amount of shit that's like everywhere that like shows that this guy has wealth, like they probably could have killed him and like blamed it on the sustron itself.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's against the Reaver Code, so he doesn't do that. But he does let the guy see his face. And I knew at that point where we were heading. But
Yeah. Bad news bears.
Yeah,
But
that's the end of part 4.
yeah, mainly because he like and it probably wouldn't have been that bad if he didn't struggle killing the thing.
Yeah, that
And
too.
he
Because the way that the chain was around its neck, like the cuff was too big and he couldn't
yeah.
just easily behead it.
Well, and then like all the blood that was clearly his blood, it was like,
Yeah.
damn.
Yep.
So, but he makes it home. He goes
He
and buries
does.
the head, which I forgot that like demons don't die.
Yeah, that they
You just
have to
have to like separate the body. So the thing is just staring at him with like malice through its like black eyes, and he's like, "Yeah, I get it." You're just talking to a fucking demon, bro.
Yeah.
So he buries it, and he's like, "All right, I gotta go home to my girlfriend,"
Uh-huh.
and that's exactly what he did. And so now we're at the stag. So he's
Yeah.
clearly a married man.
Yeah. And I did not write a lot about this, just they have a daughter and her name is Ursa. And this like little bear basically is what he calls
She
her.
bear, yeah.
She bear, yeah.
It's like Ursa Major, Ursa Minor.
And then he's talking about how once a year he goes to Umri for 2 weeks. And he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to miss any time with his new baby daughter or his wife. And he just wants to stay there with his family. And he says some famous last words before he leaves. He says, but there would always be time.
Never. Never.
Yeah.
We learned that, I wonder, honestly, if we read this before and we read that like section and then we heard uh Amaris say, but there's always there'll always be time
Yeah.
to Knox after the second book, and then that's when we've been like,
No,
no.
don't say that. Yeah.
Like
Because
maybe it would have triggered a lot more than that.
yeah, because he goes to Umrave, does what he has to do, and he comes back at the end of his 2 weeks, and the town is silent. Like
Quiet.
he can't hear anything. He can see the lights on in the pub, and he can see like lights in some of the houses, but he can't hear the music. He can't hear people talking.
So
Any of
somebody
that.
has a dampener, and dampeners are bad news.
Yeah.
So he goes to his house and he's just worried. The blood drained from his face. There's not even a whisper. He couldn't, it wasn't real. And then he recognized a man by his house, basically coming out of his house. And
Yep.
he says, "You did wait for me to see you, didn't you? After you took my reason for living. The only thing that brought me purpose, it seemed to only sporting that I do the same." And
Fucking sobbing.
and I immediately was like welling with tears.
Yeah.
And Odrin
Kills him.
immediately runs at him and just beheads him. And as soon as he beheads him, everything's gone. The dampener is
Yep.
gone.
Sound
He
comes
hears,
back.
yeah. He runs in, and he didn't stop to look at the fallen man, at the blood, at the headless merchant in the center of the village, but ran to the house, terror, sorrow, fear, and panic tearing through him. He screamed at Effie, and he saw how cold she was and just laying in a pool of blood, clutching her lifeless body to him. And she had tried fighting, and just like he had shown her, and he said wait, ran to the cabinet with all of the healing tonics, started trying pouring it down her throat to get her to wake up, even though she had long been passed. And
Yeah.
he was just there, and then he's freaking out because she's not swallowing the liquid, and then he bolts up and says Ursa, and he runs over to the bassinet, and he just sees blood dripping from the bottom of the bassinet.
Yep.
In a slow rhythmic consistency.
They're both dead.
So Ursa, his baby bear, and his wife Effie were murdered in cold blood.
Yep.
So
yeah, and that's the end of part 5.
was the end of part 5, where he just buried his hands in his face despite all of the cold blood and wept.
And then part 6 is called Antlers.
Because he's shedding layers.
Yeah.
He's shedding his old life.
I only wrote a couple things about this chapter. One was sobbing. And then I wrote down, it's basically their funeral. And he digs their grave on top of the hill, and
at the orchard where they all, not orchard, but near where they always hung out.
Yeah, and then there's a quote. It says, "I was supposed to be your guardian angel. Now you'll have to be mine," referencing the letter he wrote for her before he left. And then just fucking sobbing. It's awful. And then he decides to go back to Umreeve, and we kind of pick up where we left off.
And it's it was Odrin touched the antler against his chest, the one with the small letter E engraved by a teenage girl in an apple orchard who told him with pure conviction that she'd always be with him. He took the other necklace from his pocket and draped the matching counterpart around her iron headstone, a little antler with the letter O for her to wear in the afterlife as she clutched to her baby.
Yeah. Fucking sobbing.
Yeah. And it's so sad too because it's like her family was still alive. Her family is like grieving the loss of their child and their grandchild, and obviously he doesn't have any family member. That was his only family that
Yeah.
he could really like picture. And so then everybody left and he just was there. And um and it's just sad too because it's like damn, like now we see how, not how, but like why he acted the way he acted towards Amaris. Like we always questioned reading through everything like, oh, he's like a father figure to her. Like he's like a father to her. He's very protective. He wants what's best for her. He like has a softened spot in his heart for her. But we never realized why. We just thought like maybe he took pity on her, all of that. And it's because we didn't read the story.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it so much more than I would have if we read it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad we read it when we did.
Yeah, I feel like honestly I would have like more of an emotional attachment to it if we like we kept all the novellas till the
To the
end.
end. Yeah, I agree.
Because I feel like I probably would have like cried a lot more during a few of the other stories.
Yeah, I did like
Definitely
reading
not Daphne and
Yaslin's.
Moray's. I would have bawled my eyes out regardless.
Yeah, that one was hard. I think that I liked reading Yaslin's when we did because it made it that much sweeter when she found her love in the end.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I didn't, not that I didn't care for what's his name?
Zakai.
Zakai. Like I liked his story. It was a nice like way to see who he was.
Yeah.
But like there wasn't any like sweet little moments like
Yeah.
with like, not that there was a sweet fucking moment in the Murray and Daphne story, but like there was but it was like sweet to like see the love that they had for
Yeah.
each other and like
And
what it
like her
created.
friend or whatever, her handmaid or whatever that.
Yeah. Like it was sweet to see those little moments, but like Zakai didn't have any of that,
No, not
which is
really.
kind of sad. It's like, damn, he's like Azrael.
Honestly, Zakai, his novella made me like him less.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, that was Odrin's story. All of the novellas are fucking tragic. And
This
unfortunately,
whole story was fucking
Odrin
tragic.
doesn't really get like a happy ending.
No, he loses. Well, not that he like it's
I mean, he gets like a new daughter, I guess. Like not a new daughter,
yeah.
but he gets a surrogate
He
daughter
gets to
too.
be that father figure that he
Yeah.
always wanted, and we see why he was so sweet to her.
Yeah.
But when he was beheaded by the king, he was beheaded, right?
I don't remember. I know he died.
Yeah, so when the king murdered him, I mean,
Yeah.
his essential happy ending was he got to be with Ursa and
Yeah.
Effie again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah. So that was his story. Tragic.
So, okay, well, until next time.
Bye.